Next up, it's one heck of a tag match. The Los Guerreros are going to win the SmackDown tag titles in a three-way over Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit and Rey Mysterio and Edge. Meltzer says this match was actually a disappointment, although it would have been considered really good if anyone else had the match. And maybe there's something to that. The expectations were so high because, as we said, these guys are being referred to as the SmackDown Six, and they're just turning them loose here for nearly 20 minutes. It gets 3.5 stars. Ultimately, Eddie's going to put Mysterio in the lasso from El Paso, and that's the clean submission. But man, think about what's to come for these guys. Reminder, we got Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit in the same ring on a pay-per-view in Madison Square Garden. Just a ring full of Hall of Famers. There's no way these guys could have a bad match.
No, I agree. And that's why we signed them. We knew what we were going to get. No matter who else is on the card, no matter what position they are on the card, they're going to deliver. And as competitive as those two guys were, you knew they were going to deliver in a big way. Both of them are looking for the recognition. You better acknowledge, Conrad. You better acknowledge. And that's what I always believe that those guys are looking for. Acknowledgement from the fans and their peers that because we're 5'8" or 5'9", whatever it may be, we can still outwork you and we can outdraw you because our performances are going to be the best.
There's a segment here in the match that kind of hurts it. Chavo throws the belt to Angle, who catches it. When Benoit turns around, he sees the belt in Angle's hands. They're arguing. That leads to a spear finish. And then Benoit and Angle argue all the way to the back. And Meltzer would say the crowd reaction here was a surprise, and it really hurt the match. The crowd booed, seemingly a combination of guys not liking Edge and fans mad that Benoit and Angle, particularly Angle, was out of the match. I love this New York crowd, and boy, we're going to give them what they want here. Chris Nowinski's going to come out and say people in New York are stupid. Matt Hardy's going to come out, start to tease that he's going to defend New York, but he says they're not stupid. They're losers. And, of course, here comes Scott Steiner to what Meltzer called an enormous pop, and he corrects himself and says, in fact, enormous probably doesn't even do it justice. When Steiner's out here, he's going to press Matt overhead, nearly lose him, but manage to regain control, throw him over the top rope where he wipes out Nowinski. And then he's supposed to cut a promo, but there's no mic there, so we hear an F-bomb on the show from Scott Steiner in his debut. But man, they are reacting to Big Papa Pump in a big way. And as a guy who just had to maybe acquiesce to some of his demands, you probably felt like, all right, maybe it was worth it hearing that pop, huh?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You never know exactly how a returning talent or a new talent, whatever term you want to use, is going to be received. Our questions are answered very quickly regarding Scott Steiner. And I was happy to hear that pop. You're happy to hear any pop, but on a new guy coming back, it sort of validates your negotiation and getting the guy on paper. So that was really important. I used to stress to the guys, let's don't talk. I don't want you talking to the talents I'm negotiating with. Because they're going to ask you about creative,
right?
Because they care about cash and creative. I'm going to take care of their cash issues. Creative, I'm not, because I don't have any say in that.
Right.
And it, quite frankly, what they hear regarding potential future creative can adversely affect negotiations. What if they don't hear what they want to hear? What if you don't have a valid answer for it? So, the question is, Scotty was, that F-bomb was just indicative of his competitiveness. And, he didn't give a shit. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. He just didn't. And I kind of like that trait in him. Of course, I've been a Steiner guy since the Cowboy Bill Watts days, so I'm biased. And I was still disappointed that we didn't get the full run out of the Steiners versus Doc and Gordy. I thought that was that left some meat on the bone, quite frankly.
Next up, it's our main event. Shawn Michaels is going to win the Raw title in the Elimination Chamber, the very first one. He beats Triple H. He beats Rob Van Dam. He beats Chris Jericho. He beats Kane and Booker T. They go 39 minutes and 20 seconds. And maybe the most notable thing, beyond it is just a dangerous structure, is Rob Van Dam climbs to the top of one of the chambers and comes across with a frog splash on Triple H that hurts him. And I believe it was like a knee on the throat. And Meltzer would say at one point the match wasn't very good. Then Michaels juiced and he starts taking a bunch of bumps on his back on the steel, which maybe, considering his back history, wasn't the best call. Eventually we get down to Triple H hitting a pedigree, but everybody's too stunned to roll over for the pin. There's another pedigree attempt. Michaels blocks it, hits the super kick, and that's it. Huge confetti celebration, and it's everywhere. Meltzer would call it a real strong visual to end the show. And he says that Michaels physically had lost some of his wrestling timing, which was one of his strong suits, and he maybe looked a little smaller here.
That may be splitting hairs, Conrad. It's between you and me.
But he says this, his timing as far as when to do spots and how to do them for the most impact is still impeccable.
Bingo.
And that's what made the last part of the match so strong. He gave it 4 1/4 stars, and it is a hell of a debut for the Elimination Chamber. And I know that somebody out there is going to probably argue this, but in my opinion, this was the very best Elimination Chamber. We didn't know what to expect. It was new. It was exciting. It was a real moment to see Shawn Michaels not only back, but back as a champion here in the company. I loved it. I thought it was a really special way to end the show, and just the visual of the confetti, it made it feel big. Shawn Michaels at this point, by the way, is just 37 years old. After the match,
he got rid of those brown tights though, right?
I don't think they ever came back.
that haircut. I remember I asked him, I said, what's the story in this haircut? I said, did you lose a bet?
Little Dutch boy haircut is what we called it here in Alabama. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson here to tell you a little more about what adfreeshows.com is all about. Get early, ad-free access to more than a dozen of your favorite wrestling podcasts every single week, starting at just $9. That's less than 20 cents an episode each month. And yes, you can listen to them all directly through Apple Podcasts or your regular podcast apps. How easy is that? Ad-free shows also has thousands of hours worth of bonus content and docuseries like Title Chase, Eric Fires Back, Conversations with Conrad, and The Insiders. Plus new series like The Book with David Crockett, Monday Mailbags with Mike Chioda and Nick Patrick, and a whole lot more. And you want to talk about early? You can't get any earlier than listening to the shows live. You can be a part of the live studio audience as we record the podcast. Plus, ride shotgun alongside your favorite childhood heroes for live watch-alongs, Q&As, and other interactive experiences every single month. Come on now, see for yourself what thousands of other wrestling fans from around the world have discovered, that adfreeshows.com is the best value in wrestling. Check it out today, and hey, when you do, the first week is completely free. adfreeshows.com.